Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Ete with another episode of Eco Lawn Science. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you're excited to learn something today. I'm excited about this episode because it is the science that helped me, that I built my company on, and I'm very excited, and it's more of a recent science in lawn care. So, before the last decade, lawn care was kind of like this. I mean, in a nutshell. Hey, my lawn's not as green enough. Okay, throw more fertilizer on it, right? You throw more on, it greens up. And then you continue to do that. Or, oh, my lawn's too green, put less fertilizer. You know, it's kind of, in some ways, been simplified to that. Problem with that approach is there's a whole ecosystem below the soil, above the soil, in your backyard. And so it's just a very short-term treating the symptoms kind of way to look at it. And then recently, I mean, she's been working on it for about, 30 years plus, but she's really started to get some press. Her teachings are getting out there. There's a doctor named Elaine Ingham. She's one of the leading soil microbiologists, and she's an American. She's from the States. And she discovered something that's quite a game changer in a whole different way. And it impacted me so much that it changed my way of thinking, coming from a different background. And the thing that she really has been the author of is called the soil food web. She has classes and courses online. You can spend a couple $1,000 and become experts like her. She has content everywhere you go. You can go to YouTube and learn from Elaine Ingham, Ingham. So I'm going to simplify her teachings today. And if this ever gets back to you, Elaine, which I doubt it will, but if it ever does, please forgive me because this is going to be so simple of something so incredibly complex and awesome that you've done. But for our listeners, we're just kind of trying to do this in a few minutes. The soil food web challenges that concept that I brought up earlier. The lawn's not green, throw fertilizer on it. And just keep doing that. And it looks at a more long-term, sustainable approach to lawn care. And so, again, go back to the jungles and the forests in the world, and they're lush and they're green, and there's animals everywhere, and things are really healthy. And you know what? There's no one out there fertilizing. There's no one out there spraying weeds or fungicides. Nature has a way of taking care of nature. The problem is when we, build our modern day America and these neighborhoods and homes, everything we're doing is unnatural. We're ripping all the good stuff out, destroying all those beneficial relationships that the microorganisms have in the areas, and we build our houses and we put down, often subpar topsoil that's not full of life. And then we throw sod down and we want it to look incredible, right? That's kind of what we do. We want it to look like the forest, the woods, just that natural. But because we don't have that ecosystem of life in the soil, and we're constantly on it, we're over mowing, we're over watering. I mean, we're really not doing a great job of it. Because of that, we really imbalance this ecosystem. And that's the word I want to focus on is balance. So what she talks about is the soil food web. And I'm going to try to break it down, but it's kind of a complex system in what already naturally exists on Earth, except for in areas that I've talked about where we come in and destroy it and change it and move everything around. And what it is below the soil. It starts way deep into the soil. It starts with a little single-cell bacteria and little microscopic fungi and protozoa. And, these little guys, they'll start eating each other, right? They'll have a relationship. The fungi eats the bacteria. It releases a waste. That waste is a little ball of nutrients, of natural fertilizer that is stuck there, but it needs to be unlocked. So then the nematodes, the larger guys come, and the earthworms come, and they eat them, and then things, there's this relationship. And then their waste, their exudates, unlocks things. And then they get eaten by the bigger arthropods and the arthropods and then the birds and the small mammals. And so it's this cool, complex system, but it works. But the problem is we don't have that balance in our soils. So as I mentioned earlier, what do? The lawn looks weak. Instead of looking down, we treat the symptoms. Oh, it's yellow. Let's make it green. Throw nitrogen down, right? But what if it was trying to tell you something? It's yellow because something down in the soil, right? This approach is almost like a drug. We're just constantly feeding this drug. And as soon as you pull it off, it's not strong, it's not healthy. So what does it do? It's relying on it. So I built my company on this idea. Is there a more sustainable, better way that treats the root of the problem and not so much just treating the symptoms? And so we're not just throwing fertilizer down, but we're taking a look at the soil. We're looking at the microorganisms. We're trying to restore balance to the microorganisms. Now, it's complicated because now we are trying to restore balance to nature, and there's a lot of facts. It's very unstable is the word. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's what I want to say. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and that's what makes it difficult. When it comes to fertilizing, you know certain things. If a lawn is yellowish in the summer, going almost chlorotic, some iron will bring it back, right? If you know you have dandelions, a certain weed control will always kill it. But when you get into the real science of it and working with nature as opposed to working against nature, it's very complicated, and we still have a lot of research to do to really get this dialed in. So I've been working on this for about a decade, and I know there's still miles more to understand and to figure out. But my goal is, can we one day have all the lawns that don't even need fertilizer, but we use recycled compost, and we apply that every month? And we'll talk about compost tea in another episode, but the short version is, and this is again, Elaine is the author of a lot of the great science in compost teas. You take a great organic compost loaded with micronutrients, you put it in these special bags in these big brewers. They could be 100-gallon, 1,000-gallon brewers, and they brew depending on what you're building, what kind of tea. If it's a fungal bacterial tea, they could brew for 36, 48 hours. There's a certain time, and this whole time they're being aerified, their movement, and you're feeding it so that the microbes are growing. And so at the end of it, you have this liquefied tea that you apply on the lawn that's full of life. So back to what I was talking about, these single cell, these bacteria, these fungi, all these things, you're now taking all that and recycling it back into the soil. Now, it gets complicated because you could go the wrong direction, but that's compost tea. But anyway, that's the idea of the soil food web, is taking a whole nother approach at lawn care and looking at it and say, hey, why don't we work with nature? I mean, we already know in certain untouched areas it does phenomenal on its own. So can we restore it? Can we stop putting down so many fertilizers and chemicals and even organic fertilizers? Can we improve and have a great lawn using less inputs? Can we rebalance the soil in your front and backyard? That's where the soil food web comes in. That's a very short look into what the soil food web is, but that's the concept overall. And I encourage you to either go to soilfoodweb.com or Google soil food web, or even go Google soil food web chart to see an image of what she drew out and how things eat each other and what the relationships are. But the thing I really want to get across in this podcast, because we're not going too deep, is just the soil food web is a newer way looking at lawn care, plant health care, even tree care, and saying, let's find a more sustainable way to work with nature. I hope that helps. We're going to dig deeper into the food web. We're going to dig deeper into compost teas and other episodes coming up very shortly. But I just kind of wanted to get your attention and get some interest in this concept. And for any other companies out there that may be interested, please read the book Teaming with Microbes. I think it would hopefully be very insightful to you, as it was for me. It's a game changer. I'm excited about this science. And I hope more companies and more homeowners can get into this so that we can really clean up the industry, have great lawns, but not have and great plants and shrubs and trees, but not have all the negative impact. I hope that helps. Have a great day, and we will see you on the next episode.